Can I get an updated post-Kansas pickleball driver rankings? Since I heard
Yeah, I'm last. I stink.
Or we should go play that game that we never
Well,
finished our
I mean,
bet
you
on
still
them.
wouldn't beat me.
Okay.
The following is a production of Dirty Mo Media.
Welcome to the We're Not in Kansas Anymore version of Axis Detrimental. As you know, Birch Gold Group is our presenting sponsor. So shout out to Birch Gold Group. You can get your free info kit by texting Denny to 989898. Love Kansas. Had some great success there. Almost did it again, but I am a bridesmaid once again. Fun race. We had a good off the track week worth of news going on. Let's kind of dig into that a little bit. We had John Hunter Nemechek being named as driver of the 42 car. What's your thoughts on that, Jared?
Good for John Hunter. It's interesting seeing that car driven by Carson Hocevar right now because Hocevar looks pretty good in it, where that car did not look very good with Noah in it the last however many races. So I think it'll be interesting for John Hunter, also considering that those guys are going to Toyota next year.
Yeah, I think that John Hunter's definitely deserved his second shot in the Cup Series. When he came in, he was very, very young. It was probably 3 years ago or so, 3 or 4 years ago. He was in Cup. Restarted his career, went back down to the Truck Series, won a bunch of races there. Went to the Xfinity Series and now is winning a bunch of races there.
Which I have to imagine, by the way, takes a lot of I don't know if confidence is the right word, but when you're in the Cup Series, right, you're racing a Cup car, then to say, okay, I'm going to take a couple steps back, go back to the Truck Series, and hopefully I can reinvent myself and get back to the Cup Series. Like that doesn't happen too often.
Yeah, I think a lot of drivers get caught up in, I got to race on Sundays. And, my advice to drivers that, maybe are struggling in whatever division they're in is that winning at a lower division far exceeds being invisible in a higher series. I think that it was a very good strategic move on John Hunter's part. Obviously, with the Cup experience that he had, going back down to the Truck Series, he was going to have an advantage over the field. He'd raced against really, really, the best of the best stock car drivers, and so it made him better. So when he went back down there and won races, you're like, okay, yeah, he is pretty good, right? And the equipment means so much in the Cup Series, and that you just never really know until you go down there and you get a fair shake. And he's certainly done that, made the most of his opportunities. And yeah, my advice, if you're trying to make it up the ranks, is make sure you're succeeding regularly at the level that you're at before you start taking a jump. A lot of drivers get caught up in the opportunity of, I can get in this ride in the Xfinity Series, but I'm like, what number is that? Like, I haven't, it's just going to be really hard for people to be able to see your abilities, if your car is inferior, right? So then taking a step down and being in a more competitive ride is in my mind the better way to continue to advance and impress those who might be looking.
Yeah, it keeps you at the front of everyone's mind, right?
When regardless, if you're winning or you're in the headlines on Friday or Saturday, it far exceeds not even knowing that you're in a Cup race on Sunday.
If you're given a Cup ride, though, nowadays, don't you just have to take it?
Well, why? That's what I'm saying is don't do that. Because I know it's very hard. There's only 36 spots.
What if there's not another
Yeah, you have to weigh all those options, right? And you kind of got to know what the landscape is of free agency. When are key rides going to be coming available? Knowing when drivers' contracts are going to be done. All those are big factors, certainly, in any decision you might make. But I'm glad to see this one going to pan out for John Hunter. Obviously, the switch to Toyota next year for Legacy should be a great move for them, and I think that we're going to see him be far more competitive than he was first time around.
Yeah. Speaking of him, he did win the Xfinity race on Saturday, in which we had a bunch of shakeup in the Xfinity playoffs.
Yeah, we did. It was this was a cutoff race, and I agree with Dale Jr. that the you kind of get confused on who's where. Like, are the trucks are in the playoffs now? Cup's in playoff. Xfinity's not. Like, yeah, if we can get all those schedules aligned a little bit more, that would be great. But it was a cutoff race this weekend at Kansas for Xfinity. Of the key guys that kind of run up front regularly or run pretty consistently. You had Brandon Jones not make it and Riley Herbst not make it. The Brandon Jones is really interesting to me because I thought that he really was on a good path when he was with JGR, and he certainly was more competitive. I'm not really sure why. The 9 car shouldn't really be a step back in equipment, which, it's kind of uneducated to say. I'm not really sure, but he's just not. I feel like he's regressed a little in performance this year. I mean, it's, I would say the numbers would support that, so it's not totally unfounded to say that. But it is surprising to not make the playoffs in the 9 car for Junior Motorsports. All the Junior Motorsports cars you would think are capable of winning on a week-in, week-out basis. Justin Allgaier continues to be the flagship guy. Sam Mayer's had his moments, and Josh Berry he's been kind of middle of the road as far, he's not really leading the pack of JRM cars much any of the weeks, but he's very solid. So, yeah, it certainly comes as a surprise that Brandon Jones didn't make it. Riley Herbst, on the other hand, I do feel like, it's tough to say this because he didn't make the playoffs, but I think Riley Herbst has gotten better. I certainly have seen stuff in his racecraft that makes me believe that he has gotten better at his craft as a race car driver. They just didn't work out. They looked like they were in a pretty good position early in that race, and had I believe they had a tire blowout or something of that nature. But they had issues, went laps down, got it back, and then they didn't quite fix the car as good as they could have, and then his race was over. You can't come back from multiple laps down multiple times. So he made a charge back through, but it didn't work out for him. So I'm still, looking forward to what Riley can do in the future, because I think that he's certainly shown that he's improving. That's a good thing. He's improving. But on the other hand of this, you had, many others, lock themselves in. I guess one of the bubble guys would be Parker Kligerman. Really happy for Parker. I'm a huge fan of Parker's and his racecraft. I think he does a great job. He always gets the most out of the equipment that he's got. Not that we're downing his equipment whatsoever, but it's certainly, this is a fairly new team. So, you're going up against some of the powerhouses of the Xfinity Series and beating them and putting him, himself in position to make the playoffs, which he did. That's it says a lot about Parker and his ability as a race car driver. So, really appreciate him as a person as well. That guy works really, really hard. You'll see him on most TV shows or working for NBC on Sundays and doing talk shows during the week. And he still finds a way to, and also does a podcast with Landon Castle.
Army knife.
Yeah. I think they're the Money Lap. If you want to tune into the Money Lap guys, they're great to hear. But yeah, he's done a great job, and he stepped up to the plate this weekend and performed great.
Yeah, a Swiss Army knife type of guy.
Yeah, he definitely is, for sure.
Who is your predictions for the Xfinity championship for, if you were just to look at it right
now? Let's see. I mean, obviously, John Hunter's in there, right? He's going to be, really tough to beat. Austin Hill, I think while he's not a guy that just goes up there and leads a bunch of laps and dominates races, he always manages to get the best out of his finishes. And so I would, I'd say based on speed, you're going to have, the 20, the 7, the 21 maybe in there. Give me some more names.
You've got, let's just run through the Xfinity playoffs. You got John Hunter, Austin Hill, Justin Allgaier, Cole Custer. These are in order, by the way, of playoff points. Cole Custer, Sam Mayer, Chandler Smith, Josh Berry, Sheldon Creed, Sammy Smith, Jeb Burton, Daniel Hemrick, and Parker Kligerman.
Okay. All right, so if we're doing this off of speed, I think there's a clear-cut 4. You've got the 7 of Allgaier, the 20 of Nemechek, the 21 of Hill, and the 00 of Custer. I think that those guys stand apart as far as consistently being the fastest in the series. Now, you have others, such as, you'll have Sam Mayer have some weeks where he shows flashes, and he'll be the fastest JRM car or the fastest car on the track. Josh Berry, not as much, but still he has certain racetracks that fit his style really well. I think they probably run Martinsville, which would be a great track for him, with an opportunity to get into the Final Four. Those are the next guys in my in my thoughts. But it never goes chalk. It never goes how you think it is. I asked on this episode a few weeks ago, when it comes to the Cup playoffs, who in the top 8 is not going to make it? 0 said Martin Truex. Now, he could go out there and run really well at Bristol and put himself above, but you just never know. Like, it never goes as planned, because this is such a small sample size of playoff, these 3 race cutoffs, that you just never know. It just takes 2 bad weeks and bam, you're out.
Football is back in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Get in on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code ACTIONS to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on the DraftKings Sportsbook with code ACTIONS. The crown is yours.
Now it's time for a little NASCAR 101. This is where we kind of educate the new fans about kind of the nuts and bolts of what we're talking about and explain in detail a few of the technical things. This segment is presented by the Birch Gold Group. If you want to learn more about Birch Gold Group, you can get a free info kit by texting Denny to 989898. Well, NASCAR 101 this week, I want to talk about the penalty that Ty Majeski's team got. NASCAR this year, we helped change this, where they're now showing off all the illegal parts or pieces that they might deem, that warranted a penalty. Love it. NASCAR, keep doing it. They showed basically a valve stem cap that basically when you screw it on, it leaks air out of the tire, right? So it's letting air out of the tire. And on short tracks, big tracks, not as much, but it's still a factor. It is a huge advantageous way of getting more grip in your car or truck in the long run, because what we want to educate you on is, why would you want to let air out of the tire, right? If you're in your street car, you're letting air out of your tire, you're just going to get a big warning light, and you got to go to the gas station and fill it up. Well, in racing, you want to have your air pressures at, the tires make an optimum amount of grip at a certain air pressure, right? So it's a combination of the pressure and the heat that it builds, right? So we start on short tracks, our tires very, very low in air, because as it builds heat and we start racing, the temperature goes up, the air pressure of the tire goes up. And what we try to do is, basically make the tire through the course of the run average out its optimum air pressure. So it will always end above the optimum pressure that it makes grip at.
Right.
So if we can leak air out of it, it allows two things to happen. A, you can be faster in the short run because you can put more air in it to start, so you're quicker to get going. And then if it bleeds air out,
You're staying in that.
You're staying in that
range.
Yeah. You're much, much longer. And even, at the end of a run when the tires are hot and slick and they built so much air pressure, I mean, you're sliding all around. If all the teams could just go into the pits at the end of let's just call it a 30-lap run on a short track and take 2 pounds of air out of all the tires, they would run significantly faster. So why don't you bleed that air out to start to make it in there? It's because, A, you will be so slow on the front end, you'll be terrible, and you risk damaging the tire, the internals of the tire, and then you risk blowing it. So bleeding tires has been around for a very long time. It used to be, it was legal in the late model stock short track days. We used to run actual bleeders that would, you hear them popping off whenever they get to a certain temperature. Mm-hmm. Boom, they pop off, and you hear whistling sounds. Ty Majeski's team, Joe Shear Jr., who's very, he's got a rep for this kind of stuff. Listen, don't beat up the middleman. I'm just reporting the news here. They got busted putting this valve stem cap on that it almost looked like a little welded, just a zip of weld on top of it. So where when you screw the cap down, it pushes down on that valve and allows it to leak air. Where this team, they screwed, it was whistling or making a noise while going through inspection. So, it's hard for me to really justify what the hell these guys are thinking, but they just dominated the 2 previous short tracks. What in the hell were they doing with that thing in the third race that meant nothing to them? First of all, I think you should be hammered if you get caught doing this. Like, their penalty was small considering how illegal.
It made it worth it.
Oh, I think it was worth it.
Right, you got your race win.
Yeah, they got the race win. So that's irrelevant. So it's the more concerning thing is that how long have they been doing it? Who knows, right? I think it just, when you dominate the races like they did, you're going to throw up a red flag to the NASCAR officials anyway. And it just was neglect on their part to just assume that they were going to just keep getting away with this. So good for NASCAR for busting them. It obviously is a really bad look for the team. And hopefully, like we talked about, showing it off like this shames the team enough to deter them from doing that, right? I mean, because this is an egregious thing. This isn't an accident. It wasn't, I didn't mean to. It was a deliberate, egregious way to cheat. And that's a tough word, but it's honestly, if you do it, that's your fault.
What's your overall view on cheating in general, right? Obviously, this sport has a long history of pushing the boundaries. If we found out after the championship that Ty Majeski won and they were doing this all through the playoffs, right, and they had this advantage, would you look down upon that championship?
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, this,
Absolutely. You should, because they didn't win it fair and square. But
what about years ago when everyone was pushing the boundary?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is Chad Knaus kind of had this rep, in the Cup Series for a long time with Jimmy, is that, he would back then it was innovative, right? He was very, very innovative. So Ray Evernham was before Chad. It just, you had, maybe it was Dale Inman before that.
Looking back at that now, it's kind of romantic a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the rules, they were playing in areas that the rules didn't cover, right? That doesn't mean NASCAR always liked it, but they found a way to twist things around that weren't meant to be twisted around, but there was no rule saying you couldn't. So these guys were very innovative to get speed out of their cars in areas that you are allowed to explore. What's different in this case is that this is a blatant, you are breaking the rules, you are cheating. So that's the difference. The purist of our sport probably doesn't like next gen because there is no room for being innovative, right? For the most part, NASCAR is trying to get us to run all the same Lego box car that that here's your 200-piece Lego set. You can put it together any way you want, but you have to run these 200 pieces of Lego, right? That's what NASCAR wants. Now, that probably relates into the being tougher to pass because all the cars are running very close in speed. But, this is a little bit different than the innovation of the past, right? And it's very difficult. That's why it's always very difficult to compare drivers and teams from the past to now the present because, the team's the crew chief's innovative mind or the team's innovative minds aren't able to really work as much as they were before, right? This is a simulation world. This is a driver world where, those are the biggest X factors in how you're going to perform week in, week out. At Joe Gibbs Racing, we just used to, beat the crap out of everybody because our chassis, we would innovate a chassis for many years that would always come out. First one would come around the Coke 600. The second one would come around a week or two before the playoffs. And we knew when we got these big car upgrades, these new chassis, it was going to be a significant gain for us. And so there was always significant parts of the dates and time in the schedule where we knew we were about to release our latest and greatest. The problem with that is the cost was so high for, by the time we release one car, the next car is nearly almost done, and we're already starting to work on the car 1C. Like it's that far ahead of the schedule. And so it used to be fun times because, we would go out there and the cars would feel so different. You're like, oh my gosh, but it's so much faster. A lot of that would come from underbody stuff or lower CG, which is center of gravity. It used to be some fun times back in the day when the teams could really kind of show off their ingenuity. F1 still has it, right? Their underbody, I follow Dr. Dobbs and whatnot at F1. It's so fascinating to hear their commentary on, well, here's the underbody from Red Bull or here's the underbody from, McLaren. Look at the difference. Here's what they're trying to do by bending these angles and whatnot. That is so interesting to me, but, some people just don't care about that stuff. So, but to kind of wrap this up, they elementarily, egregiously cheated, and they got caught. And we'll see if this equals different results when we go back to the next short track. Certainly at Milwaukee, he was not nearly as strong as what he was at the other short track. So,
well, we are going to a short track this weekend. So
I got a question though. You said that you like them showing off the part because it might embarrass them, but do you think that also allows people to see what they did wrong and maybe try to
come up with another way to do it? You can, but that's why the penalty should be so severe. It should be just way harder than what they got.
If a team gets caught breaking Rule A, why would another team then go back and try also to break Rule A, right? I feel like if another team was going to try to do this,
because they saw how big of an advantage it was.
I understand, but now you'd have to think that NASCAR's eyes are going to be on this.
Yeah, but what they're what the other team, what Travis is saying is that, but now another team might say, well, we can come up with a different way to leak air out of our tires. It used to be, I won't call names, but there was no doubt some people in the Cup Series that were putting pinholes in the sidewalls of their tires. Absolutely. They'd put them, they would take the tiniest hairline, thumbtacks, drill bits, whatever it is, and drilling the sidewall of the tire to let leak air.
I'm just saying, don't you think NASCAR will be paying a little bit more attention to this specific issue going forward in case other teams are trying to do the same?
Yes.
So if you're going to cheat, go find it elsewhere where they're not looking, that hasn't already been red flagged.
Yes, you would think so, but this is where you can gain the most, which is why NASCAR says don't with our tires, our engines, our fuel, right? Those are just the things that they do not want you messing with. Now, the argument is that, well, they didn't mess with the tire, they messed with another part, right? But it's the tire assembly. So I think NASCAR should be on high alert all through the playoffs, every series, I think you need to be out there dunking tires on a regular, especially short track. I mean, all tracks. Homestead could be another one. Dunk tires. Anywhere where the lower the air, the faster you go, dunk tires randomly. Pick a set off of 10 cars that are up at the front. You don't need to be dunking the 20th place cars' tires. Like the guys that are up front, go put them and see if they're leaking any air. What they do when I say dunk them, they have basically a water tank. They just put the tire in it and see if it bubbles. So it's that's NASCAR should be on high alert for it for sure. I don't, we're really beating up on the 98 team right now, but this has been around for a long time, and there's been a lot of teams get away with it for a long time that that have been doing this as well. So NASCAR is going to be on high alert for it for sure. But we'll see how it all plays out. Well, that's this week's NASCAR 101, brought to you by the Birch Gold Group. The precious metals can be a great way to diversify your savings. So learn more about the benefits with no cost or obligation. Just text Denny to 989898.
Okay, should we move to the Cup race now?
Sure, let's do it. The Cup race was they got to, I guess, rename it to 2311 Racing Speedway.
By the way, fun fact about the Cup race, or Kansas in general. Since starting working in NASCAR, I have never not been to Kansas and not been to Victory Lane in some sort of capacity.
Oh, yeah, because I went there to...
You've won 2 or 3 times?
I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, as an owner.
Yeah, well, I certainly was hoping to add to that as we were cruising there towards the victory inside 10 laps to go. That was one of the more painful second place finishes. Like when Kurt won, I was really emotionally excited. I was really excited. Bubba won, really excited again. Now this one, it's just like I was definitely more pissed off as a driver than I was happy as an owner.
Right. Well, you didn't have the race in
my grasp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With 6 to go.
Yeah, that's for sure. But I found myself definitely more in driver mode this weekend of I was happy for them, right? It was almost painful for me to go to Victory Lane, and I loved it. Like even today, I'm really happy for the 45 team 2311 because those are my guys. I mean, all those guys, say thanks, boss. And I forget that at times that these are my guys, right? But having to take a picture with Tyler right next to the trophy that he stole from me sucks. Oh, it sucks so bad. But, if I'm going to lose out because of the late race caution, I'm so happy at least it was them versus somebody else. I mean, golly, had Logano won that race, because, after being an absolute non-factor whatsoever, boy, that would have stunk even worse. But yeah, at least Tyler was able to get it done. He's been competitive the last 2 weeks in a row, staying up front, so they capitalized on the opportunity. But the race itself, I thought, kind of talking about the race, we had Kyle Larson leading early. Looks like he was dominant. The radio played back, the TV played back audio from my in-car on one of the cautions. I think this is between the first and second stage where I said, these guys, they don't know yet. Yes, I'm hanging around this 4th to 7th for right now, but I know what my car is capable of. And I'm what I say on the radio, I was like, they don't know what's coming. These guys up front do not know what's coming. And what I was talking about was us. We were about to make a charge. I kind of know right away in the race whether I've got the feel I need to have in the car to be fast and competitive. I know really right away. But at that point, then I just manage my risk. I make sure I keep myself in the race until the end, right? I'd love to go up there and win all the stages and get all the bonus points, but my objective first is to win the race. So I just probably am a little bit more cautious when I know I've got a race-winning car, and it takes me a little bit longer to get to the front. Guys like Kyle Larson or Reddick or some of these guys are lightning fast. They blow through the pack and they're at front in no time. Me, it takes a little bit longer because I'm working into it. I'm making sure I don't make a mistake, and because ultimately it's about timing towards getting to the front, right? How many laps did Tyler Reddick lead yesterday? Two. So that's what really pays in the end. So I just knew right from the drop that we were going to be good. I wasn't that confident overnight. My crew chief, Chris Gabehart, says, take a breath. We're going to be fine. You're going to drive to the front like you always do at this track. I'm like, yeah, but Chris, that's the pass. Like, it's not, I can't rest on laurels. I can't just say, well, we've done it before. You're just going to do it again. I'm like, Chris, I don't know. Other guys have gotten better, and I just don't feel like my car's got the it. But the green flag, it's something about the Toyotas especially, generally, when the track gets rubbered up and hot and slick, it just seems like that's when they really come on and be strong, or at least our 11 team for sure. I don't know what it is about that track. I mentioned it on TV as well that it takes me a day to get up to speed at that track. Now, I can run fast for a lap or so, but it just seems like my technique, my setup, whatever it might be, until that track gets blackened off, rubbered up, and slick, that's when I go forward, like way forward, really fast. I don't see it in practice times. I don't feel it in the car. Darlington's the same exact way. I was very middle of the pack in practice there, but they dropped the rag, man. We've been on it the last 2 weeks and been super dominant. I would have loved to seen myself and Kyle heads up there at the end. I thought that, he felt he had.
I think a lot of people would have liked to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you would have especially, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have loved to seen us kind of race up front straight up. We kind of got off sequence with those guys when Cliff made the decision to keep him out that one restart. I'm actually very surprised he fell back as far as he did, though. I guess once you lose one spot, it's just you lose a ton. But man, Chase Elliott was able to make that strategy work, and he stayed out and got the lead and held it really to the last couple laps before the stage. And Larson dropped like a rock. So Kyle was very good up front. I saw him making a pretty good charge at the end as well. Like I was watching his interval to the lead. Now that was still expanding, but he was racing guys and continuing to march through the top 10. So I think he was very strong. Us, the 5, the 45 were consistently what I saw the best cars. There was other guys like the 6 and the 9 that were up there, but they just were, I could just tell they didn't have the speed to once they led to go dominate.
Right. Well, that's what Brad said on the radio, driver of the 6 car, is that, hey, once you past him, that's all I got. Those cars are just faster. Yeah,
you could see it. I mean, Brad's pit crew, holy moly. They gained him so many spots throughout the day and finally got to the front. And, it was like, what, I couldn't believe it. I thought he had probably like an 8th to 10th place speed car, but they just continued to execute super well. And, they put themselves in contention and didn't get quite the finish they thought they probably deserved. But yeah, it was a fun race. And, Kansas is a track that we have always kind of, I don't know, it took a long time to mature, but now that it is mature and that means the pavement is getting older, it's a racy track, man. Gosh, it's one of the best tracks that we have on our schedule for racing. Certainly hope Mr. Ben Kennedy keep putting 1.5 miles on the track. This next-gen car, while it is a struggle on road courses and short tracks, it is an ass kicker on the 1.5 miles. And, man, they're some of the best racing. This, like the old Chicagoland Speedway, would be awesome for the next-gen car now because it's going to be it would be a lot like Kansas. So, does your paycheck stretch as far as it used to? Most likely it doesn't. But you can help hedge against inflation by diversifying your IRA or 401k into gold. It's an asset that has stood the test of time. Birch Gold Group has helped tens of thousands of Americans protect their retirement savings with physical precious metals. Now you can too. Get a free info kit on gold right now by texting the word Denny to 989898. Fill out a brief form, then speak to one of their representatives so they can personalize your free no-obligation kit. When you place an order by October 31st, Birch Gold Group will send you a free gift card to the Dirty Mo Media and Junior Motorsports online store worth up to $500. Buy Actions Detrimental merch, use race gear, autographed collectibles, shirts, hats, and more. But you can only get this gift card by texting Denny to the number 989898, filling out a brief form, speaking to one of their representatives, and then buying from Birch Gold Group by October 31st. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau, you're in good hands with Birch Gold. Get started now by texting Denny to 989898.
Let's talk about Martin Truex Jr. He had an issue on Saturday, and then Sunday, 3 laps into the race?
Yeah.
It's over?
It was interesting. He was really tight. Well, what that tells me is maybe that it was leaking air, almost inadvertently, like the time he was leaking air, so it gained grip for the right rear tire for a small period of time, and it probably made him plow tight. But eventually the air got then so low, it blew the tire out. So, man, that is some bad, bad luck. And that is just this format. This format of he could be not making the next round, or he could survive Bristol and then be the number 1 seed again.
Yep, back to normal.
It's just crazy how it can flip. But he's had 2 bad weeks in a row. This one's certainly not his doing or his team's doing. Just some absolute horrible luck to get a punctured tire there, running over something that's sitting on the racetrack that blew out his tire. So more than likely, as early as it happened, he probably ran over something before we went green, or when we were driving down pit road doing our pit road speeds. That probably punctured the tire, I would think. It started leaking air from that point. He started off the race. He was plowing tight, which means the right rear had plenty of grip. And then it got so low, it blew out, and he had lost control. So that's terrible for Martin. I look at the points, and I'm like, man, he's going to have to beat historically really, really good drivers at Bristol, where a track where he hasn't been that strong. Either way, we're going to have a big name miss the first cut, right? I mean, I don't mean to fast forward ahead of the playoffs, but you can't ignore it. The Truex is -7 now, and he's going to have to either beat the next guy up, Harvick +7, Logano +12, Bell +13, Buescher +13, Chastain 18. I would say if he gets in and replaces, let's not include Kyle Busch, the Chastain versus Harvick, Chastain, Buescher, Bell, Logano, Harvick, and Truex. If any one of those guys misses it, that is an upset in the first round. Would you agree?
Yeah. Not as big as if Truex misses it, obviously, but yes, it'd be an upset. Because we talked about, Chris Buescher's a guy who could see the round of 8, with the recent success they had. If he doesn't make it out of this first round, then yes, that's an upset.
Yeah, I think no matter what, we're going to have now again, Logano has just not been as strong.
Yeah, and I don't know if Harvick gets knocked out, I'd call that an upset either.
I get it, but he's still Kevin Harvick, man. The guy is just amazing as far as getting the results, the best result for what his car is capable of. I mean, his team cars are just not running well at all. He, besides the RFK cars, the Fords just aren't doing well. But Kevin Harvick is and RFK is. So they're finding a way for sure. Rodney and him are they're grinders, and they find a way, but they're in the danger zone for sure. The good news is we're going to a short track where aerodynamics won't mean quite as much. So the Fords have been good on these, the Bristol shorter type racetracks. So you've got 3 Fords there that are in that kind of danger zone of of the playoff bubble. When I look at the point standings, though, what the media and what people might see is, well, he's fine. I can tell you as a driver, the people that are nervous is from Blaney down. Keselowski, he's plus 33. He knows that unless he crashes early, he's probably going to be in a good spot. He's probably resting okay this week. I just think the Blaney plus 25 and below are the guys that are like, oh, man, I can't screw up this weekend.
Yeah,
like
you can't have anything bad happen. You can't have any bad luck.
Yeah, correct. The Chastain, the 18 plus 18 to Harvick plus 7, they could lose on outright points. They don't have to screw up. They just, if they don't perform well, they could be out. So there's more guys on the nervous bubble than there is on the actual bubble. You got Bubba 19 back, Stenhouse 22. Even though he runs good at Bristol, gaining 22 on some of these other guys will be very difficult unless he finishes top 5 of both stages, which is it's doable, but he's still going to need some more of these cars here to run poorly or have a poor race. McDowell needs to win. So it's going to be an exciting weekend as far as that's concerned. I think that there's a lot of guys that are nervous, and certainly no one saw this Truex thing happening 2 races into the playoffs.
Yeah, I found it fascinating, though, that Bristol has not been a good track for Truex over the years.
I know. 4 top 10s?
That's
like
wild.
Top 10s?
Yeah. You'd think by accident, driving a good car, you'd just happen to finish 9th or something more often than not.
Yeah. Gibbs' cars have been good there. I don't know. Who knows? You could probably break them all down and see that. Now, I remember he's had loose wheels. I think he had a loose wheel last year before. Went multiple laps down, stuff like that. So he's certainly had his fair share of bad luck, but he's going to have to go there and run really well. Where results have shown that he hasn't had the finishes that show that he's going to go up there and beat these guys. So, but that 19 team they were number 1 seed for reasons, because they performed well at every racetrack they attended this year. So Martin will be motivated. James Small and that team, they'll find a way. I think they just these are racers, and they know how to win, and I think they're going to show up in Bristol and be fast.
What do you think ultimately needs to happen for him to advance?
Just be solid. Yeah, I think he needs to finish in the.
Will he finish? Let's say he finishes 15th. Will he make with no stage points? Will he advance because of where he finished, or is it going to be because a guy above the bubble?
If he finishes 15th with no stage points, no, he doesn't make it. No, he needs at least. I believe he's going to need 12 stage points. Okay, and then he's going to need to finish in the top 10. So that's a 6th.
That's a really good day.
Huh?
That would be a really good day.
No, hold on. That's a 5th, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So he's going to need to finish 5th or 6th in each stage, get 12 stage points, and if he finishes in the top 10, one of these other guys, Blaney, Busch, Chastain, Buescher, Bell, Logano, Harvick, one of them will have a subpar day, and he will get it. So, still, regardless, that means he's going to have to knock one of these other guys out that will be a name that we expected to move on. Maybe they haven't had the car speed. Maybe they haven't shown up like Logano and Harvick so far this year on speed, but they're still a name, and they're superstars in our sport that find ways to make it to Final Fours and win championships. Is Coke Zero Sugar the best Coke ever? I know that's a bold question, but it's got that irresistible taste to back it up. Well, when you've got an irresistible match like 0 sugar and 0 calories, something sensational is bound to happen. It's like when me and my co-host Jared team up to make a podcast. It's too bad you can't taste with your ears, because Coke Zero Sugar tastes so amazing, it's hard to put it into words. But hey, that's my job, at least on Mondays. You have to taste it for yourself. Coke Zero Sugar, the best Coke ever.
Did you see the drama yesterday between Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson on pit road?
I did. I actually found quite humor. And Bob Hocker's tweet when he was asking Chase Elliott was like, what message were you sending to Larson? And after you left pit road, when you swerved out, he was like, message? There was no message. Like, he's like questioning him, like, what are you talking about, Bob? Why are you asking me this question? I don't want you to ask me this question. But I found it super humorous. Obviously, if Chase is to get the bigger scope of it, he's going to see that Larson kind of had no choice. The 6 car was coming out of his pit box. They were 4 wide on a 2.5 wide racing surface there on pit lane. So it was just that kind of stuff does happen often. But Chase can't see that either, right? He sees that he's got a car on the outside. He sees he's got a teammate on the inside, and he's like, hey, teammate, if you're going to run into someone, run into the guy on the left. Don't run into your teammate on the right. That's probably what his mindset was.
Right. So just a quick reaction.
It's just a quick reaction. Yeah, certainly. And I think that, cooler heads will prevail there. I don't think anyone did anything wrong, but between those two. So,
What about him dooring Kyle though after that?
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm talking about.
So like, if Tyler and Bubba had that incident, would you go to him afterwards that you can't door him and your frustration,
Yeah, probably.
It affects both their race cars.
Yeah, I think Chase just kind of was super angry in the moment, right? I'm really not sure. It's tough for me to kind of speculate on what Chase Elliott was thinking there. All he saw was that his teammate turned right and ran into the side of him. So, certainly he knew that it was for no reason, but he probably was thinking, like I was saying, is that, hey, if you're going to have to make contact, do it with the other guy, not your teammate, right? Let's not avoid the 6 to hit the 9. So that's probably what he was thinking. But one thing I did notice, though, is the 9 car is running better. They were up front most of the race, and I think that Chase is getting the most out of his car. I've raced around him quite a bit yesterday, and I mean he's wheeling it and getting all he can out of it. That is absolutely sure. Did it have the all-out speed that the 5 car had? Yeah, probably not. Again, I didn't get to race much around Kyle either. He was up front when I was kind of screwing around in 5th place at the early stages. But yeah, it looks like the 9 is starting to get better, and I think that they're going to be continuing to get better as the playoff goes on, and they're still racing for the Owners' Championship, which matters. And you don't know, none of us know in his driver contract, right? Will he still get bonuses? And that is a factor in motivation for a driver. Will he get bonuses based off of where the car finishes in points? Because that's how NASCAR will pay Rick Hendrick, is how does that 9 car do? And you would think with contracts nowadays, and especially Hendrick Motorsports, who had the 5 car last year be in the owner's Final Four, but Kyle Larson was not, they probably have some provisions in there to where it's, wherever the car finishes, you get paid off of what the car does, not your individual, right? And so, we had that instance with Bubba this year at 23-11, right? The car will finish no higher than 17th in points this year, but Bubba can go on and finish really high for himself. But it's just every driver contract is very different, so you just don't know whether there's some big bonuses in there for Chase if he continues to keep moving that 9 car through the playoffs.
Do you think he finds his way to victory lane before the season's over?
I think he's going to be very close, but no. I say that cautiously because he still drives for Hendrick Motorsports. He's still Chase Elliott. Like, he's still an upper echelon elite driver. So it just seems like they just got off track a little bit, and a lot of it is he was out for a while, and then it takes a while to get in your rhythm, the 11 team, me, Denny Hamlin, it takes me a long time, it seems like, to get going in a season, right? And I participated in all the races this year. So that's one of the things that's very unique. But our average finish has always been there. For the while this season, he's had the best average finish. So he finds it. Whoa. Pen got out of hand.
Shocking. You're just doing
bam,
this
it's like
electricity.
He still finds a way to grind a great finishes, but I'm seeing him run better now. Like his average running position in the race of the 9 cars is better. So I'm going to say cautiously no, but the Roval, if there's a chance, like the Roval is it for Chase. I just think that I've seen him drive from the back to the front at that racetrack before with a car that ran into the tire barriers. So I wouldn't count him out for sure.
What happened on that final restart yesterday?
The final restart. I was looking backwards instead of forwards. This is a problem in our series for sure, and it seems like I want to encourage the fans, look at the aerial video of the final restart. It looks like it looks like an ARCA restart. There's cars spread out all over the front stretch, and all that is because somebody started laying back, then somebody else started reacting to laying back. They laid back, then the next car laid back, and if you look, there was 2 rows organized, and that was the first 2 rows of the field. Everyone else was spread way out because everyone's playing these stupid games at the end. That's bullshit. That they're trying to lay back, and essentially what happens is when we take off for a restart, it is a drag race. These cars don't have a whole lot of power, so we're wide open all the way until we get to turn 3. So if you're able to roll speed, so if 2 cars take off in a drag race, which one is going to get to the start? If they're all equal on speed,
right?
Which one is going to get to the finish line first? The one that is starting at 47 miles an hour or the one that starts at 45 miles per hour? It's the 47 because he has got that 2 mile per hour advantage from the start to the finish.
Right.
So he is trying to roll speed to keep that, his mile per hour up through the all the way until turn 3. Well, NASCAR has said, stop the laying back. They've said it, but they haven't done anything about it yet. I would suspect this week that they do address it. I talked with some NASCAR officials when I was I went into the garage during inspection of the 45 and the 11 after I got done with the media stuff as the owner, and I saw a NASCAR official in there, and they brought it to my attention. Where it was like, that last restart was just not good, and we gotta address it. And I said, listen, I agree. I made it look even worse because I was a guilty party in reacting to what I saw behind me, right? And so it's just starting to become a trend where these guys are laying way back and they're getting a run. And so the advantage, let me tell you why it's not right. If you're starting behind someone, you didn't earn the right to overtake them. Like, they're up front because they earned that position throughout the day. And you should not have an advantage over them on a restart if you're behind them. The advantage should be for the front cars and then the next cars and then the next row and the next row and next row. It shouldn't be whoever lays back the most has the biggest advantage, because if I let the person behind me lay back, what happens is they start their mile per hour sooner. Then they are able to split me one way or the other, either to the left or to the right. And the track is wide enough to where they will be able to do that. So it's not a good look for our series. It looks really disorganized. It's not fair to the front cars for certain. What I should have done in retrospect was just stay on the bumper of the 8 car. It would have gave me the opportunity to take the spot that the 45 did, but I was trying to react to, listen, I don't want to let the 5 car just go back there and lay back so far that he gets a huge run through 1 and 2. And next to know, I'm the guy split 3 wide top or 3 wide middle when I earned the position to be in front. So it's just they need to, the only way they can to do this, if they don't want to black flag someone, well, maybe they do need to black flag people, but they just need to say immediately, nope, yellow, stop. We're going to redo this again. They do it in dirt racing all the time. When they don't have a start that is not the way it should be, immediately throw the caution. We're going to restart you right back where you were. Car X, Y, Z, Q. This is your warning. You guys laid back. You do it again, you are going to the back. So I think they can abort a start or just say, hey, listen, the furthest car up front that does it, the start is aborted, and we're gonna do this again. And car Z, who did this, you're going to the back. Because it's not a good, again, there's multiple reasons why you shouldn't do it or NASCAR shouldn't allow it. But it's getting out of hand on these bigger racetracks for sure.
Yeah, I guess in hindsight, though, you think you would have won the race had you just started normally behind
Who
8,
knows?
considering
Yeah, I mean,
Reddick was able to drive
who
to the
knows?
front?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would have been beside Reddick as we went into turn 1, but then I would have had the 5 car coming 10 miles an hour faster than me, and I would have been defenseless against it, and he would have gone to the top and then put me 3 wide middle. So, yes, I would have had a great initial restart, but my turns 1 and 2, I was going to get, just blown by the car laying back on me.
So, I'm watching this replay over and over again. You might have just been behind Reddick still going into turn 2.
Yeah, maybe not. I wouldn't have been as far behind him.
Because he's in the middle between Kyle Busch and whoever's on the bottom. I guess if you don't get around Reddick, then you're in the middle between Larson and Chase.
I mean, ifs and buts. It's easy to kind of think about, what would happen if, but regardless, it didn't happen.
It did look funky. I remember I was
It
standing
looked
there
bad.
on pit.
Did you see it? Did you see, even beyond the first 5 rows, how bad it was?
Yeah, I think I might
the
have a
whole
video.
field was spread. I mean, it was awful. It was the worst looking restart. And this is just people reacting. And again, it looks like when you throw the green, you take a snapshot, it's like 11. What the are you doing? Like, I'm 3 car lengths back. Yeah. Well, it's because I see this guy laying back on me, and I'm like, well, I ain't gonna let you get away with that. I'm just gonna back up to you and make sure that I'm not the one who's gonna get screwed here. So,
but then you get screwed regardless.
Yeah, no doubt. But I mean, either way, if I sucked up again, I was going to get put 3 wide, which I did anyway because he still had a run. It just, we certainly as a series need to look a little better than that. We need to do a better job as drivers. I need to do a better job of not, just kind of looking forward there. But, then my crew chief would have been on my ass, like, why'd you let him lay back like that? So it's a tough spot to be in. We just all got to be a little bit better professionals and do it the right way. But
I know that
you might go ahead.
Both of you and Reddick took 4 tires, but had you been up front with your car, could 2 tires have worked? I know it's an if.
My car was so good, maybe, but Travis, who knows? We can't predict how many other cars are going to take 2. Certainly, if we started on the front row with Daniel, I would have liked to. I think we could have cleared him off of turn 2, regardless of what lane I started in. But who knows, right? If a car. Say that's true, right? A caution happens off of turn 2. We got to restart. Well, now I got 4 tires right on my ass. Then I'm done. So I think the call was right. I just didn't do a very good job on that restart whatsoever. And yeah, we lost.
The most liked comment on the replay that NASCAR posted on Instagram is Denny was more worried about blocking than winning. Cost both the 5 and the 11.
Of course. Yeah, of course. But hey, I'm out there trying to win for myself. We were in control of the race. We should have won the race, and we didn't. But that's just that's NASCAR racing. It's very different than other sports where if the competition makes a mistake, you usually capitalize in other sports. In ours, the competition makes a mistake, it can screw you and you lose it on pit road. So it's just it's part of it. It's what makes it so hard to win a championship in this series is that just untimely cautions can just absolutely ruin things, right? Carl Edwards was cruising like I was this weekend at Homestead, and NASCAR throws a caution for, I think, debris or something, and it changed the champion of our series. So it's by chance. I hate to say it that sometimes luck is a factor. There's no question. I hate the word luck in racing, but it certainly is a factor in our championship.
Well, Reddick wins an additional 5 playoff points. He's locked into the round of 12. Does it change the outlook of his playoffs for you? Another win.
Yeah.
Already advancing.
Yeah, it does. I think that they're, where that team has lacked, it's not been speed, it's been execution. And a lot of it has been, on 2311, we've had a rough pit road for those guys. It's been a tough, we keep track of it. This should be like his 4th or 5th win on the season. He's performed really well. We just had some pit road woes that's kept him out of 3 victories. But this was a one where he probably wasn't going to win, but did. So, and it's because he's executed. He's continuing to put himself in position to get that caution when he needs it, right? These are the ones that you shouldn't have won, but you did, right? Because you did a great job of executing and playing the race management game the right way. So I look at it as a positive, and these guys they're fast everywhere they go. So as long as they can keep it together, who knows how far these guys can go.
Can I get an updated post-Kansas pickleball driver rankings? Since I heard.
Yeah, I'm last. I stink.
Or we should go play that game that we never.
Well, I mean, you still wouldn't beat me.
Okay.
But I didn't play good. Shout out to Chip Wow from NASCAR for helping set up a pickleball court there on turn 2 side of the racetrack. He had some lights for us. He had a couple pickleball courts, and it was Austin Dillon was out there, Ricky Stenhouse, Justin Haley, myself, Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace. I thought I played the worst of anyone. I was out of it a little bit. Like I just came from dinner. I was full, didn't feel well. I'm just going to give all the excuses I possibly can. But I just didn't, I don't know what it was. I just didn't play as well as I normally do. But yeah, it was fun. So I like that, they're giving us, some extracurricular stuff to do besides sitting in our bus on any given Saturday night or whatever. So it was a lot of fun. Chip's got a great game, by the way. He's got some great top spin he puts on it. He's more athletic than you think. So he was a pretty impressive pickleball player. Now I know why he was trying to set up a game so much. You always want to play a game you're good at.
Before we finish, I need to give a shout out to Phil Pott on your 11 crew, because I told him when my fantasy football team kicked his ass this week that I'd mention it on here, and I mean, I demolished him. So,
demolished him, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's, the 11 team has its fantasy football draft. How'd I do this weekend?
You won, I believe. Yeah.
That's good. I've got a strong team. I have a co-manager of my team.
I was about to say, how much did you put into drafting your team?
Well, I'm a general manager.
Yeah, you did win. You beat Austin.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a general manager. My friend Charlie's, co-manager of that team. And, it's hard for me to, be up at 2 a.m. picking up the waiver wires and like that. Like, you gotta delegate sometimes.
Sure. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to keep up with that over the course of this season and all the smack talk that goes along with it.
Awesome. Well, hey, in not too many weeks in Las Vegas, we've got Dale Jr. and friends going to do a little Dirty Mo live again. They're also going to have the door bumper clear guys out there in Vegas. So the show is going to be on Friday, October 13th at the Westgate in Las Vegas Resort and Casino. This will be like Dale Jr. that you've never seen, and if you aren't there, or won't be able to. If you aren't there, you're not going to be able to see it. The show won't be posted after. So make sure you get your tickets at Visit Dirty Mo Media. Go visit dirtymomedia.com/live. The VIP packages are almost sold out, so don't wait on that. So go see the Dirty Mo Media guys. Door bumper clear. Mike Davis, Dale Jr. in Vegas. That'll be must see.
We got a review from Celis45. They say, love listening every week. Never thought I'd be listening to a podcast of a driver I hate. Although since starting to listen to Action's Detrimental, I've adopted a newfound respect for Denny. However, I still hate him and will continue to boo him each and every Sunday.
I appreciate it. Thanks for leaving us a review. We really do appreciate you listening. What you think about me is irrelevant. All we hope to do is continue to entertain you guys, give you some more information, let you know what you didn't see or did see on TV this weekend, or whether you were in person. Hopefully you came out to Kansas to watch it. We got some great races. We got a Bristol night race coming up this weekend. Looking forward to that. It's going to be a pressure-free weekend for the 11 team. We're going to go up there, try to win the race, do everything we can to put on a great show, and then we're going to move on to the round of 12.
Reminder to rate, review, follow wherever you get your podcast, and be sure to subscribe to Dirty Mo Media on YouTube. Each week we put up a couple clips throughout the week, and then on Friday the full video podcast is posted.
Denny, you also had a fan. Somebody tweeted you during the race. He said, this dude straight down in our section, sitting front row, definitely giving Denny Hamlin the bird every time he passes. Best fan of the year award.
Every time I passed?
Every time you pass. So that's
267 times.
Well, and if that's double birds.
Yeah, 512? 14?
Well, only passed 267 times.
Yeah, but 2 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, he gave me the 11th. All right, awesome. Well, hey, listen, those out there cheering, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. Thank you. I see all the DH gear out there, so more than I've ever seen. Appreciate you guys. Keep tuning in. We'll see y'all post Bristol.